Good evening, Deborah Rice with the late edition of ABC News. Federal Parliament has wrapped up for the year amid raucous debate on the car industry. The Prime Minister says he's upset by Holden's decision to stop making cars in Australia. The opposition maintains he forced them to that point by sabotaging the company. Simon Palin reports.
A brain snap.
Who killed Holden?
All of you.
The blame game's in overdrive.
You are the wreckers of the car industry. You are the destroyers of jobs.
The opposition welcomed Tony Abbott with some tough talk.
You will never, ever shrug the shame. Holden has gone on your watch, and this Prime Minister should be censured for giving up on Australian manufacturing and jobs.
Outrage is all very well for a union leader, but it's not good enough for an alternative Prime Minister of this country.
Labor seized on Tony Abbott's admission he hadn't met with any Holden executives since the election.
If Labor had been in government, we wouldn't have let this happen.
If members opposite are such geniuses when it comes to saving car companies, what happened to Ford and what happened to Mitsubishi?
Nearly 3,000 Australians will lose their jobs. The government's promising it will do what it can to help.
We will not let these people down, but our challenge, Madam Speaker, is to get them from one job to another job, and we will not fail.
58-year-old Albie Petrocaro has worked at Holden for almost 32 years.
We thought we had a future for beyond 2017, but then the crunch comes and it's bang.
And it's not just Holden workers fearing for their future. The carmaker's decision has sent shockwaves throughout many communities that rely on the already troubled manufacturing sector. Across the nation, there are more than 160 businesses that support big car makers. More than 30,000 of these jobs are now at risk. To make matters worse, Toyota has warned that its future is threatened by today's federal court ruling, blocking a new pay deal for workers. The company says urgent action is needed if it is to continue manufacturing in Australia. Simon Palin, ABC News.
There's also bad job news for Kellogg's, with the cereal company closing its Central Coast factory in New South Wales. 100 workers have been told they'll be out of a job in the new year. The company blamed the move on a major restructure.
We are very challenged with local employment. We don't have a lot of big companies, with high numbers of employees. So it really is a big kick in the guts. We're just going to have to work even harder to find more local jobs.
Kellogg's says the closure will be phased, with the doors to shut at the end of 2014. Over the past week, dozens of gay couples walked down the aisle in the ACT. Now they've been left devastated. The High Court has thrown out the territory's same-sex marriage law, finding it's inconsistent with the Federal Marriage Act.
It was a short window in time with a bittersweet ending. Stephen Dawson and his partner Dennis Littlelow were the first to marry, and today they were disappointed but glad they did it.
With no regret, we're proud we did it, we're proud we were public about it.
The court's decision was clear. It found the ACT law couldn't coexist with the federal law in any way, and that the federal parliament has the power under the Australian Constitution to legislate with respect to same-sex marriage, and only the federal parliament. The Attorney-General has welcomed the ruling.
It is clearly in Australia's interest that there be a nationally consistent marriage law. At the moment, the Commonwealth Marriage Act provides that consistency.
But the ACT's Chief Minister says it's not that simple. There's strong support for same-sex marriage and the Prime Minister needs to progress the situation.
One thing he could do immediately is give people the right for a conscience vote.
But not everyone's keen for the debate to go on.
I think it's been given a fair go. I think it's time to move on.
But supporters of same-sex marriage say they aren't giving up and will now step up the push for a debate in the federal parliament. Elizabeth Byrne, ABC News, Canberra.
The federal court has opened the door for dozens of groups and individuals to receive damages from the Australian arm of Lehman Brothers. Councils, charities and churches across Australia were part of a class action that ruled they'd been misled into making high-risk investments that failed. 3 councils are set to receive $28 million in damages, and today the federal court ordered that 69 other parties should also be compensated. Those hoping to tap into super-fast broadband still have a long wait to come. The federal government won't be delivering the high-speed broadband it promised during the election until 2019. An independent strategic review has also found it'll cost $11 billion more than forecast.
We overestimated, clearly, the ability of the NBN code to deliver.
Meanwhile, Bill Morrow has been appointed NBN's chief executive. He was hired by Vodafone to turn its business around, and he'll now be in charge of making the NBN profitable. Australia's consumer watchdog is taking several well-known companies to court, alleging they formed a cartel affecting the price of some soap powders. The Competition and Consumer Commission has filed civil proceedings in the federal court against Colgate, Cussons and Unilever. It alleges they were involved in a cartel activity that affected a range of popular brands, including Coal Power, Radiant and Omo. It says they reached an agreement on the sale of ultra-concentrate products that had a significant effect on competition. Unilever says it's already taken action in relation to what it's called regretted past behaviour. The ACCC also alleges the supermarket Woolworths was aware of the arrangement. Woolworths says it will vigorously defend itself. A far north Queensland man who dissolved his wife's body in acid has been sentenced to life in jail. 70-year-old Klaus Andreas has pleaded guilty to interfering with a corpse, but said the death was an accident. A jury in Cairns rejected that, convicting him of murder. The court heard Andreas had been having an affair and had been advised a divorce would be expensive. Overseas, police in New Zealand say it could take days to formally identify a body found near where a Melbourne man disappeared over the weekend. The body was recovered this morning from the Waikato River at Hamilton on the North Island. 38-year-old Melbourne tennis coach Paul Arbour was seen swimming in the area 4 days ago. Mr Arbour was visiting Hamilton with a group of young players for a tennis tournament. Back home, the cloud over Tasmania's poppy industry monopoly is continuing to darken. The state's closer to losing its competitive edge after a decision by the Victorian government to introduce new commercial poppy growing legislation.
Tasmanian poppy growers had a regular meeting in Latrobe today, with only one subject dominating discussions. The Victorian government has introduced legislation that could allow commercial poppy growing there next year.
Well, I don't think there are many Tasmanian farmers that want to see Victorians grow.
Tasmania's pharmaceutical poppy industry is worth more than $100 million a year to farmers. The Poppy Growers Association is seeking an urgent meeting with the federal government to stop the industry's spread interstate.
It's taken a lot of skill, care and significant investment to grow poppies in Tasmania.
Growers have the state government and opposition on side. The Tasmanian government is already lobbying the Commonwealth to put a 5-year hold on allowing commercial crops on mainland Australia.
We don't believe that commercial growing in other states is necessary. We've made that clear to the federal government.
All 3 poppy processing companies have trial crops in Victoria. At least one Tasmanian processor is keen to grow up to half its commercial crop in Victoria if the new legislation passes. The Commonwealth hasn't responded to the call for a moratorium. Ellen Coulter, ABC News.
Australian captain Michael Clarke has dismissed claims conditions in Perth for the third Ashes test will be a big advantage for the hosts. Victory at the WACA ground would see Australia win back the Ashes. A fast and bouncy pitch is expected, and the forecast is for temperatures in the high 30s.
I think England have way too much experience to be bothered about pace and bounce in the wicket, because a lot of their players have played at the WACA, the heat in Western Australia, because they've all experienced heat all around the world before.
Ryan Harris's knee problem continues to be monitored closely, though he showed no sign of discomfort bowling in the nets. But it's bad news for the next paceman in line, with James Faulkner suffering a fracture in his hand after being hit during batting practice. Now for a look at the national weather, here's Graham Creed.
We've got relatively clear skies across much of the continent, and that's actually leading to some very hot temperatures around the southwest corner. But we've got this band through Queensland. It's a trough, but it's starting to move further east. It'll still trigger some showers and storms tomorrow. We've got another front set to cross Tasmania, but this is going to be the last in a series of fronts. This high-pressure system should keep any more well south of the state, but another cooler day across the southeast, becoming very hot through the southwest. That's as very warm air gets dragged out of central Australia down into the southwest corner. Mostly dry across New South Wales, but showers and thunderstorms possible about the east of Queensland.
And that's all from the ABC TV newsroom for now. Have a good night.